Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
Another week, which means I get my buddy, Jacob Padilla, in for Nebraska Preps postgame. Coming off a busy week. He's getting Nebraska wins to cover. That's 2 in a row. Feeling good. And we get high school. And, ladies and gentlemen, his Phoenix Suns have acquired a superstar talent in Kevin Durant. And he's not a gambler, but the Vegas odds have shot in favor of the Phoenix Suns. Not a bad week for you. You saw one of your favorites in Hepburn. He played well in a loss, so the team you cover wins. That's good. Suns got Durant. That's good. What else? You got a new car. That's good.
Yeah,
You're still well liked. That's good.
Well, depends on who you ask after this past week. But
You were crystal clear in that. That was crazy.
but yeah,
People listen to or they read to respond and not to understand.
100%, especially on Twitter. But yeah, it's funny actually. So I asked Drake Keeler to fill in for me so I could stay out in Grand Island. I didn't want to have to do what you had to do, drive out there and then come back. And
It's like, whoa.
but yeah, and so like after the game got over and Nebraska won the thing, like Aaron Sorensen tweeted in Slack, just all caps, Jacob, and I responded, did I just lose my beat? Am I allowed to come back after they pulled that off with Drake there covering the game?
I'm serious, and you and I were talking about this off pod. Doing high school sports well is hard because you have to do legwork. Things aren't readily available. You can't just kind of get a glimpse. You have to kind of follow it, in my opinion, I think, to do it well. So good on Drake for like impromptu covering for a guy that is widely regarded as someone that is meticulous about his craft. Nobody wants to follow the man, right?
And I did not realize it when I asked if he was free. It was his birthday. So I feel bad for making him work on his birthday.
That's cool.
But,
Good enough guy, though.
Yeah.
That's why people think he's so
the game,
nice.
So, yeah. Drake's awesome. Drake Keeler. Follow him. Yeah. So do we want to start with the Heartland Hoops Classic then before we get into the top tens?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So only 7 games this year. They cut back, made it a little bit easier on all of us. One less game there. Didn't have to get there quite so early. Didn't have to stay quite as late. But I mean, how many games were you there for?
So I didn't end up going.
Oh, you didn't make it. Okay.
So what happened was in the morning, we flip-flopped. Jay went to Grand Island. I stayed back because one of the kiddos stayed. Micah had 2 games here, and it was my senior day at Millard North. So I ended up staying for the duration. But Tony Chapman, shout out, helped me because, I'm obviously getting the day package. And I didn't want to have to I didn't want to have to watch on my phone. I wanted to put it on the big TV. Yeah. And I was like, hey, is there an app? And he kind of walked me through. And then once I got the download login, it was kind of like being there.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty good. Plus I got to see Central City, then Platteview. And I mean, it was a good day, at least for me.
Yeah. Good people over there. Strive. Shout out to Tony. Yeah. So fun day. Started off with that Freeman, number 2 in C2 against Central City, who was number 6 in C1 there. Impressive showing from Freeman, and particularly Carter Roos won that thing 61-47. Offensively, Roos finished with 32, tied for the 6th most in event history at that point. Had 25 in the second half, only missed 2 shots after halftime. So he just took over. And then defensively, Talon Petrovsky locking up Aiden Zickman, over 21 a game, one of the best players in C1. And he just could not get anything to go in. So like that combination right there.
You sent me the text of death. Tough start for Aiden Zickman, and I was what? Did I give you an emoji or just give you the
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
It was a struggle. Offense was hard to come by. I mean, 23-21 at the half. You're thinking, okay,
get a few shots to go, and then but yeah, it went the other way. The shots started going for Freeman, and not so much for Central City.
When you're taking a look at, Central City's going to be at least they hope to be kind of in the thick of things in C1, but you're looking at Ogallala and Wahoo.
We'll get to Wahoo in a second. Yeah,
they just look like vastly different teams playing in C1, and starting to be separation.
Well, and Ashland Greenwood, 36-26, wasn't on Grand Island that playing against Pierce.
Still sitting at 21 and. Are they 21-1?
One.
Yeah, 21-1.
Yeah,
like that. It's hard to believe that one loss. That was Platteview. At Platteview on the road. Platteview kind of looks like a different team since then. No, they got a chance to get Draper going, which I think is kind of the X factor for them. But doesn't that seem like so long ago?
Yeah.
Because that ended their streak.
Yep. And now Platteview, speaking of, that they were game 2, had that good win earlier. Obviously had the little dip. Milliken dealing with the knee issue, didn't play against Hastings. Came back for senior night this last week against DC West, and they need him.
Yeah,
it was tight at halftime, and then they won second half 44-30. And Milliken, first game back, playing on one good leg, 26 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists. Pretty good. Yeah. Trey Mosman chipped in 25 there, and then you fast forward to Saturday out in Grand Island, taking on Grand Island. And man, ice cold start to the game. Grand Island sitting in that zone the whole time.
Then the third quarter happened.
24-4. And then it was ball game after that.
I was surprised, JP, because typically, and I shouldn't have done it, but you typically don't text me back in game. But I just wanted clarity. Because at that time I said,
that their 6-3.
Is that their 6-3 of the quarter? Because
they hit another one.
And then you text me back 11, with the current stats, and I was like, oh, well, good on him for texting me back, because usually he doesn't like to miss anything. But I just wanted to make sure that I was seeing that right, because it was an onslaught.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what they're going to do, and that's what I talked to Tim Brodsky afterwards. Like, those teams are going to zone us. We have confidence that the shots are going to fall eventually. You're going to keep taking the right ones, and they did. They only fell for one quarter, but that's all they needed to win in holding Grand Island to 37 points overall and 9 points in the second half. And Milliken, Plattview's official Stacky Bradham with the triple-double, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. Mosman had
19.
Yeah, 19, led the way, went 5 of 14 from 3, so got him up there. And Milliken and Mosman both, they had combined for 21 of their 24 in that third quarter. So just those two back and forth, knocking down threes and making plays.
Let me ask you something, because that's kind of the blueprint the last couple of days. You mentioned Milliken playing on one leg. He's got the MCL issue going on. He's going to try to gut it out, knowing he's got several opinions. He's going to physical therapy. Can't make it any worse. So he's going to try to finish this out. Is there a recipe in there? Because we're going to get to Ogallala here and Wahoo in a sec. Is there a recipe in there where you think M&M, where Milliken and Mosman, is that the blueprint? Is it 26 and 25? Is it 19 and 18? Is it Draper? Is it Milliken sharing with the assists? Like, what's the recipe if you think Platteview can be the team that broke Ashland Greenwood's win streak?
Yeah, if for them to be at their best, they need both Draper and Milliken hitting shots. It's that simple. Some of the games they struggled, neither of them have been going, maybe just one of them. You need to get Milliken. He can beat middle to lower level Class B teams on his own. Once we get here into the postseason, that's when you need the help.
I thought it was going to be a good sign when Draper hit his first 3 of the game. I was like, because they're kind of waiting for him to recapture that form, and it just hasn't really come to him.
Not really. But he's certainly capable. That's the thing. Like, he's had some really good performances in some of their wins this year, and obviously baseball first kid. So you wonder just kind of how that impacts. Like, he was a really good shooter as a sophomore, and then you kind of focus your attention on your main sport. does the secondary support slip a little bit, but he's got great touch from the perimeter. So if they get both Mosman and Draper hitting shots to go with Milliken, kind of doing a little bit of everything, that's when they become really hard to guard. When it's really just Connor getting downhill, going to the basket, that's when you can put a wall up at the rim. You can force them into some really tough shots, and that's where you get to the inefficient 17 points on 20 shots, like that type of thing. Keep them out the foul line by going vertical and not slapping down, trying to block it, all that type of stuff. So it really is about balance for them. And then Ryman Ziebert had I think they had him
kind
with 6 blocks.
Kind of their post presence.
He had 10 and 7 that DC West game. He's not a guy that's going to give you 20 and 10, but if he can give you 8 to 10 points and then protect the rim, that's really all you need from him. And he did that this past week for them. So yeah, that's a good win for Platteview. Game 3, number 1 in C1 Wahoo against Class A team in North Platte. It was a battle, back and forth the whole way, but Wahoo pulled it out 58-51 in the end. And that's after overcoming a slow start. Wahoo, I think they missed 11 of their first 12 shots. Could not get anything to go. Couldn't finish at the rim. Open jumpers weren't going down. They fell behind 14-7 at the end of the first quarter. But then they kind of slowly started chipping their way at it. And in the fourth quarter, back and forth, and they just made plays down the stretch to pull that thing out. Marcus Glock finished with 19. Owen Hancock had 11, only missed 1 shot. And that's really, basically everybody else struggled.
Yeah, Benji couldn't get it going.
He had a steal and dunk that was a highlight play there, kind of got him going. But then shortly after that, ended up having to check out with minor injury, wasn't able to go back in. So they didn't really have a lot of guys going, but they got enough there. And defensively, River Johnson 22, Jesse Mock 19. Very little else from North Platte. They basically shut everybody down. They forced River to take a bunch of shots to get to that 22. He had some big plays down the stretch to kind of keep them alive, but Wahoo hit their free throws and got a couple of stops at the end to win that thing.
Something or nothing as we take a look at it. And it's one of the big games coming up this week will be Platteview and Crete. But with Lincoln Lutheran's win over Crete, because Lincoln Lutheran's kind of hanging around. I think they're 16-6, right around there. We weren't sure how we felt about Crete, and then Crete had some good wins, and we're like, okay, they belong. Blip, it's hard to tell in high school without seeing some repetitiveness, though. Like it could just been an off night, right? It could have been an 0 for 16 shooting night for a basketball team from behind the arc. But is there something? Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, I mean, so this past week, Lincoln Lutheran knocked off Auburn, bumped them down to 9. Lincoln Lutheran climbed to 8, and then Aurora got Crete. Yeah, big win for Aurora, and then they go and they beat Concordia as well, 49-35.
And I think I don't want to speak for you. We like Concordia.
Yeah, they've had a great season.
Yeah, yeah.
So Aurora kind of putting together late. They've just kind of been hanging around all season. They haven't been bad by any means, but they haven't necessarily they haven't been a top 10 team really. They haven't had a bunch of really big wins or anything, but this past week they're turning it on down the stretch here again. Two really good wins. And because of it, the coaches put them in at number 10 in the NEB Preps Coaches Poll last week. So the top 6 in Class C1 remain the same. And then you just had that little bit of shakeup below that. C1 mentioned Ogallala still there, 22-0.
They're good.
Yeah, we talked last week about down to 3, and then immediately Donovan Trumbull lost
the 1-pointer
that Tuesday night after we recorded to knock it down to 2, just Bell West and Ogallala. Donovan Trumbull lost to Holdridge 52-53, went 5 of 12 from the free throw line. They were down 30-21 at halftime, got their way back into it. But again, you can't miss free throws in that because it was kind of close otherwise. So missed opportunity there for still a talented Donovan Trumbull team who bounced back and won their second game of the week. But that allowed Amherst to climb. Interesting, coaches put Amherst at 1 at 21 over Freeman, 22-1, and obviously just had another really good win. A little confused by that, but
maybe they were thinking wrestling because they hung multiple banners in that fantastic facility out at Amherst, which is just right around the corner from Kearney. But I think people think like so. Just asking, some of the guys, since we know so many of the coaches, I think there are a lot of people that quietly like Amherst, though.
Yeah.
Just weren't impressed by the schedule. And I don't know what to say about that other than I'm just relaying what I think the consensus is that I think people think this is a really good basketball team, and I don't think you luck your way into 19-1.
No, yeah. So
Freeman's played the tougher schedule, though,
Yeah.
at least on paper.
Yep. And another C2 team played in game 4, actually 2 C2 teams. It was all C2 matchup. Grand Island Central Catholic, Tino Martinez, the event organizer, his team always plays in as well. Pulled off a nice win, 45-34 against Gordon Rushville, who was number 9 in the poll last week. And just phenomenal combination. It was a 3-and-D win is kind of how I described it. 10-22 from 3, and held Gordon Rushville at 34 points. Just a really good job of limiting. Jason Nelson is the guy for Gordon Rushville, 6'6", big frame, talented.
Didn't get a lot of easy looks at it.
They did not let him get every catch was high post. They just did not let him get deep position, and he didn't get going. He had 7 of his team high 11 in the second half, late or in the might even fourth quarter, I think. Just when they had already fallen behind and just weren't able to kind of dig themselves out of the hole. But nice win for Tino's group, who has obviously had a really good run of talent with the Jengmers and Marcus Lowry and Isaac Herbert and guys before that. Kind of having a down year, but that's a good win for them. Kind of with new guys filling in. They played the same 5 guys the entire time. Tino did not sub one time.
You kind of check the monitor to make sure that, wait, same 5. They're going to get 32 minutes tonight.
Yep. Ishmael Nadir led with 14. Thomas Birch hit 4 threes. Bodie Fox had 10. So just nice win for them in the last all Nebraska game of the day. And then after that, got into the showcase games, bringing in the out-of-state teams. And Nebraska teams went 2-0. Not quite the same setup as we've had in the past. The competition wasn't quite peak Oak Hill or IMG or Sunrise. But these were 2 good wins for Westside, and then we'll talk about Bellevue West after that. But 62-56 over Real Salt Lake Academy out of Utah. And Westside 2 of 14 from 3 and still found a way to win. Yeah. And they got the big lead early and then let it slip away. Salt Lake tied it at 51 all. And then Westside did a great job of resettling, not letting them losing their lead kind of get to them in their head. They just kind of resettled, got back into it, and pulled that thing away, and got a couple of big buckets. And then Real Salt Lake hit a 3 to cut it to 2, and then tried to press, and Westside just picked the press apart for layups.
Yeah, got 3 easy layups.
Yeah,
between Crawford, Oddbody, and Benning, which kind of restretched that lead. I was glad they stayed on the gas because I was not interested in watching any more half-court offense after kind of that fourth quarter stretch. But Westside is a team that is 2 for their last 30 from behind the arc, which isn't going to.
Well, they had the Bryan game in between there. It went 10 for 22.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
it's hard to know what
you're gonna get.
Yeah, they 2 good games in a row. So you had the drought, the 5 games that we talked about, and you break out of that, hit 2 good games in a row. With 21 threes between the Southwest and then the game after that.
Yep.
Then go 0 for against Lincoln East, 10 of 22 against Bryan, and then 2 for 14 against Salt Lake. But they did a great job getting to the rim, finishing strong there. They had contributions from everybody. Tate Oddbody led the way at 17. Kevin Stubblefield had a rough game efficiency-wise, but he had some big-time buckets using his body to go up there and finish against the bigger Salt Lake team. Kevin Brown Jr., 9 points, knocked down a 3, 6 rebounds, was battling. They had 6'10". They had, I think, 3 guys, 6'10", 6'9", 6'10s in that range. And Kevin did a great job of limiting their touches, battling inside. They did help side was good. They were switching where they needed to. This Westside was really on the same page defensively. And then Caleb, it didn't shoot a ton, but man, he made the most of his opportunities. Really impressive. Every one of his buckets was like, oh, okay, getting a little saucy with it. Took care of the ball, and then defensively his job on JJ Maniquit, a sophomore with multiple high major offers for them, completely shut him down.
Yeah.
He ended up scoring, I think 11, but hit a couple shots late and 7 turnovers. I think I had 6 or 7.
I think, I still think he's the best on the ball defender in the state.
He certainly made a case for that in this game. He's right up there. He's certainly on the short list, and which was really impressive as a junior to be.
And just the assignments that he's drawing. I mean, in this week alone, he saw Maniquit, he saw Amari Bynum, because they didn't want to switch a ton. You know, Bynum started to get in the post in the second half, which got him going a little. Struggled in the first half. He saw Chuck Love. He had, Alec Noonan, who, he scored 18, but I think it was on 17 or 18 shots. So, I mean, just the week, it's hard for him. I know he goes 3 or 4 shooting a couple nights, but he's just learning to be a good two-way player now, because I think the defensive end takes a considerable amount of effort, which is why I like those good two-way guys. I look at a guy, and we'll get to them in Class A, starting to commit himself to being a good two-way guy, Jaden Jackson. I love those guys that don't mind guarding and then flipping around and trying to help, contribute offensively. Bird from Bennington is a guy that comes to mind. A good two-way guy. It's hard in the Metro with some of these scores.
Yeah. So you want to transition to the Belleville West ends?
Yeah, we'll go to A, because they find different ways to win. It just
Game 6, and Bishop Walsh is a part of the NIBC, which is the elite conference of all the powerhouse schools in the country. They're the bottom team in the NIBC, so it's all those schools that you've heard of. They're in that league, like Sunrise and all them. Bishop Walsh has really struggled in that league, but they still have some talent. They had Mike Williams III, who is going to LSU, signed there. 24/7 has him as a top 100 player. I think Rivals has him as a 3-star, but and then Michael Tyne, smaller guard, but he's really skilled, talented player as well. They had a really tough backcourt. They've got size, even if they don't use it a ton.
I thought Tyne should have got more looks.
Yeah,
and maybe that's testament to defense as we get to what was going on, because we're in complete agreement. Bellevue West defensively is got the ability to shut your lights out
and open it up with a 21-9 lead after the first quarter. Josiah Dotzler had 10 of those himself, hit his first 4 shots, had an and one in there, a 3, made the free throw. Just a phenomenal first quarter for him to set the tone. And then Bell West held on the rest of the way. They had some big buckets from a lot of different people. Jaden Jackson, 18, 6 of 11 from 3. And I was talking with Doug Woodard after. The thing that makes Jaden, there are a lot of good shooters. The thing that makes him truly elite as a shooter is his ability to set himself no matter what and get a shot off.
Yep.
He doesn't need to take a dribble to reset his feet. He can catch it from deep. He can catch a little turn, get himself squared. His footwork, his shot prep, his ability to square himself is just so good, and he can get
100% agree. I watched. That's a fantastic, and obviously Woodard sees him every day. But having seen him the last 3 summers, you always want balls in your shooting pocket, right?
Yep.
Shooting pocket. Jaden, he has such good hands. He'll go get it from somewhere. He can turn. He can pivot. He can catch and gather, and it's gone.
That's the thing. He can catch a bad pass and immediately reset himself and go up and rise up with it. He doesn't. There are a lot of really good shooters that
collect and gather guys,
or they need space to get it off. He's just so hard to guard because he doesn't need conditions to be perfect to be a great shooter. He can better a ball, as kind of to borrow a volleyball term.
Yeah.
He can get off the shot, whether it's a good pass or not. And that just makes him so hard to guard. And then on top of it, he had 5 offensive rebounds and 4 assists. So he was crashing the glass hard. And in this game, so Jaden Bullion was sick, wasn't even there. Robbie Garcia rolled his ankle, only played 8 minutes. Jacob Arope went down, hit the ground hard early in the fourth quarter, wasn't able to come back in. So they were without their 3 post players.
That's really the one thing that could derail them is injuries, because outside of that, the way that they can share and somebody get you on a different night, they're rolling.
Because they had Jackson Stuvia as their biggest guy out there, yet they were still able to finish that game, not give up easy points. The two guards got downhill and hit a couple of shots. Williams ended up with 34, and a bunch of those in the fourth quarter. Tyne was really good as well. Finished with 21, but they didn't really get much outside of anybody else. Josiah Kennedy is a freshman, highly touted, has already got high major offers. Completely shut him down. He was a non-factor. Mm-hmm. None of their big guys really did much. So they did a great job of just controlling that game start to finish. So really impressive win for Bellevue West. And we wondered, like, what kind of challenge would this be? That obviously the undefeated streak still going, and they were clearly the better team than, again, a team that belongs to the best high school league in the country.
Jumping to, you want to stay in Class A for the week? We could stay with Bellevue West, or we can go to the new number 2 in the state, which had a great win the other night.
Yeah, let's just finish on Bellevue West real quick. They 75-57 at Lincoln Southeast. They were down after the first quarter and then won the second 26-5 to get back in control. And was it like a 21-0 run or something like that in the half or whatever it was. Hey, speaking of Joe Gans just offering Jacob Rope a football scholarship.
Gans out here working. Northern Iowa's finest.
Yep. Not bad for a kid that hadn't played football in a long time.
Dabbling.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the frame for it. He's got the athleticism. Like he's got a chance to be really good in that. Yeah, even if he is a hooper at heart. But yeah, and then Bellevue West, I was 74-33 against Bellevue East to get Friday night again ready for the Heartland Hoops game. And so they're sitting 22-0, and boy, do they have a heck of a week to finish.
Hopefully.
They host Miller North, and they go to West Side on Saturday.
Yeah.
So that is 2 and 6 in the latest coaches poll there. So they're not going to cruise into the postseason. If they want to get through the regular season undefeated, they're going to have to go out and earn it.
The interesting thing is I think now we'll see what West Side can do with it and Miller North the second time around. But I do think there is an advantage to seeing Bellevue West. You get them on the first time, you do
can't simulate.
Yeah, you do give yourself a better chance having seen them once because they do so many different good things. It's almost impossible to scout without having had a game under your belt. You almost need to take the first L to give you even a chance the second time around.
Yep. And as I mentioned, number 2, Miller North. They
great
climbed
week.
to that spot after having a great week. I was there when they beat Gretna in overtime, 59-58 on
a very tough shot.
Elijah Gate. And I talked to Alex Wilcoxon after, and he said, yeah, tough shot, but that's his shot, the crossover kind of step back.
You got to know that's what he's getting.
Yeah.
A lot of people have now tried to time that crossover because that is his little rhythm getter. But boy, that's big time.
Well, and good action there. They had Neil Mosser screen because Alex was guarding Eli, and those two obviously know each other's game. And they had Neil screen for Eli, and Alex is like, we're up 2. We cannot give up a 3 here. Didn't want to switch, but he's like, I can't let Neil pop free.
Yeah.
So they switched it, and Eli took advantage of the switch there and hit the 3 at the buzzer. There were like 2 seconds left when the ball went through and Gretna had timeouts. I don't know if the coaches just like weren't, or they was like, it's over anyway, or if they were trying to call a timeout and the rest just didn't hear him because it was nuts in that place.
I was just getting ready to say the place went crazy. Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, so you're out at half court and Eli just raises the shirt. I think he's waiting for them to call a timeout, right? Because he really didn't even celebrate. Yeah. He just was kind of like
till the buzzer sounded. Yeah, everybody's running around. But and so obviously the game winner is nice. Probably the most impressive thing in that game, 16-0. They shut Gretna out in the second quarter after Gretna got off to a great start. 18-11 left after 1, and then Miller North 16-0. I think it was 0 for 7 from the field with 8 turnovers is what I counted.
We talked about Gretna, and we can talk about them in the same vein since they're number 3. So the one thing I think that can kind of be their Achilles is they they go through these stretches where they have to work so hard on offense because they don't get downhill clean. It sometimes can be a lot of dribbling, especially if it's Pokorski trying to work his way down into the paint.
And he really is their only like real off the dribble threat. Alec Wilkins is a guy that can get downhill, but he's not super shifty off the bounce. Mm-hmm. It's more an advantage scorer. And Alex Wilcoxon, obviously elite shooter off the ball, and he goes downhill hard to the rim. But again, he's not a guy that's going to cross you up three times to get past you. So it really, especially late in clock, that a lot gets put on Pokorski's shoulders to try to create. And a lot of time that just doesn't, that it ends up in tough shots. So if you can get them late into
struggled shooting it,
you've got a chance there. But yeah, that was a really impressive win for Millard North. And again, down the stretch, made big play, and then Eli hits the game winner.
How about Pokorski going over 1,000 though for Gretna?
Yeah,
that's
as a junior.
It's pretty impressive.
Yep. And then Millard North follows that up. 52-50 win against Papillion Vista South on senior night or senior day, whatever time of day that was. And Eli Gaith again, game winners back-to-back days. This time a putback. I forgot even who took the first shot, but Eli there on the weak side, catch it, redirect it back in midair. Just heck of a couple of days for that kid. He had 17 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. Really efficient shooting against Millard North, and followed that up with 10 points and 9 boards, including that game-winning putback. And they won the fourth quarter, 16-8.
Along those lines for Papio South, a tougher out without a record to show for it than Papio South.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
That schedule.
Yeah,
I mean, Papio South is. I mean, there are some teams that are in the back end of that top 10. Kearney at 15-6. I think North Star is 15-6. Papio South is a headache every time out, and the record isn't indicative of how hard they play.
Yeah, they're putting so much on those 2 sophomores, Bryson Ball and Reese Kircher. If they can get a third guy going, if they can get
Maljaw's got to be the
somebody
guy.
else, that's what they need to have a chance to win some of these big games. But still an impressive effort to hold Millard North to 52 points there and have that lead at the end. I mean, they were up 43-36 heading into the fourth quarter. So they had them on the ropes, and just great resiliency from Millard North, who now sitting there at 18-3, and they get a rematch with Lincoln Southwest at Lincoln Southwest on their senior night on Tuesday or on Thursday rather.
I kind of feel like we're validated.
Kearney's Southwest on Thursday. Never mind, that is Tuesday.
Kearney's got a big week. I kind of feel validated though with Millard North, because every week we say, oh, they're 16-2, oh, or 15-2, oh, they're 17-2, and now it's like they're 18-2, sitting at number 2. They got a couple of good quality wins now under their belt. I think now do they get the respect? Because I feel like 4 weeks in a row we said, hey, there's Millard North. Hey, there's Millard North. You don't want to like them because some of the stuff aesthetically, right, it doesn't vibe with their inefficiency on offense, but they just keep winning games.
Yeah. And so they climb up to number 2 there. Gretna falls to number 3, still 16-3, rock solid season. They beat Papillion Vista earlier in the week. And they got Burke and Southwest both on the road to close out the regular season. Fords Prep took care of business, won handily against Benson, and then survived a rock fight against Rockhurst, the kind of that rivalry, the annual
it definitely was that
home and home from the team out of Kansas City down there. And it was tied heading into the fourth quarter, and then they pulled it out in the fourth. PJ Newble led the team with 10 points, only player in double figures. They were 2 of 12 from 3 and found a way to win. So credit to Prep, and they go to Millard South on Friday to finish the regular season. Lincoln East followed up the West Side win, which really impressive in that game. It was, 41-21. They outscored them in the second and third quarter, West Side. And they followed that up with a 58-53 win at Lincoln Pius X. And we've talked so much about the Carter Templemeyer, and Mick was great against West Side, or Templemeyer was great against West Side, had 19, missed like 3 of his first 4 shots, and then got going the rest of the way, hardly missed. I was 19 and 10, but Jared Townsley had a phenomenal week, back-to-back 20-point games. He had 20 to lead the way against West Side, and then had 22 against Pius. Shot the ball really well. if they're getting him going in addition to what they get from the two Carters, that team is going to be tough to beat. And they've established themselves clearly number one in Lincoln. They're a very sound number 5 in the rankings there.
Big Carter squared fan. Mick, I thought Mick was fantastic against Westside.
Hit some big shots.
Hit some big, be quiet threes where, again, inexplicably, we decide to go underneath ball screens or half hedge. The two that he hit from the top of the key, where you give him about 6 minutes to look at it, he goes on a personal 8-0 run, and it's like you may want to get a hand up, and he does it with a smile. Doesn't yap. He plays. He is a handful.
And then Christian Melissa double with 6 blocks.
How about the weak side help? How he can time it. He's got the long arms. He doesn't jump until you're up.
Yeah,
and he's got the he's a very good shot blocker.
He had 6. Carter Templemeyer had 2. I think I forgot who it was. One of the others had a block as well. Just again, not a lot of size, but they play so well together.
It's a good basketball team.
So great season for Lincoln East. They're 16-4. They go to North Star on Tuesday and to Padilla South on Friday. So another tough week to close out the season. We talked about Westside and the week that they had. They're hosting Millard West and Bellevue West this week to close out the regular season, sitting at 15-6 and number 6.
Senior day against Bellevue West. They don't have a ton of seniors.
Nope. And then 7 Lincoln Southwest is there now again. The 7, 8, 9, 10 kind of just revolving door. Southwest got their guys back, kind of full strength. Everybody back in the lineup.
Yeah, Frager played well, but coming off this week after sitting and watching a little while, we'll see what happens with Bond. Didn't get a ton of minutes, but I'm sure Coach Bond and that staff will figure out that rotation.
Yeah, they beat Norfolk 69-56 and beat Millard South 52-45. Not a great offensive week. Nobody in particular played super well, so they're gonna have to step it up this week because they have a brutal week to close out the regular season. They go to Millard North on Tuesday. They host Kearney on Thursday.
Wait, is Millard North at Southwest? I think Millard North is at Southwest.
Yeah, I wrote at on both of these. Yeah. One of those. So they play Millard North. I forgot where it was.
It's at Southwest, and then Kearney. Then they get Kearney.
Yeah. They host Kearney Thursday on senior night, and then they face Gretna on Saturday. So that is tough.
A 3-game stretch, which is already kind of hard during the course of the week, and you get all top 10 teams.
Yeah. Elkhorn South holding there at 8, 13-6. Beat Burke handily, 21 points, 9 boards, 6 assists from Alec Noonan, and 21 points, 5 of 10 from 3 from Evan Warner. And then 74-66 overtime win at Millard West, where hit a deep 3 to send that thing to overtime and then control the extra period. But we talked about Millard West and how scrappy they've been. Zach Grandin had 28 in that game to give them a chance. But once Elkhorn South hit that 3 to tie it, they just kind of ran out of gas in the overtime period. But,
and maybe it's just because they're fresh in my mind because that's who Westside plays tonight. But I've seen them play a couple of times now. Millard West, for whatever the reason, is a tough out.
Yeah.
They really are. Not overly big, not super explosive, but they sure do know who they are. That's not a fun team to play against.
No, it's got a lot of teams' problems, but Noonan had 29 in that game to help Elkhorn South pull that off. Lincoln North Star at 9. They beat Grand Island. They beat Omaha South, so took care of business. They go to Lincoln East and they face Lincoln Southeast. So another tough week for the Navigators. KG Gatwich had a good week for them. That's the difference for them. Like they've gotten somewhat consistent play from their 2 bigs, Antelis and Liddell and Brendan Clemens. If they get Gatwich going and hitting shots as well,
because they have good length.
Yeah. And they play those zones. They switch it up. Tough to score on. And then Kearney making an appearance in the top 10 there to round things out at 15-6. They go to Fremont, or they face Fremont, and they go to Southwest. Coming off a 70-66 win at Lincoln Southeast. Ben Johnson, sophomore, 35 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. They were down 15-24 in the first quarter.
He can shoot it.
Crawled their way back into it and then won the fourth 24-15. Just phenomenal. And he had 21, I think, in their second win of the week.
And they can't sleep because Fremont, you think 5-15, kind of a one-man show with Corian, but man,
knocked off Lincoln Pius. Or
How
Lincoln Pius at 10.
How about that? 65-60, they get Pius, and that got everybody's attention.
24 from Corion, 16 from Jane Cassio Jensen. Both shot well from three.
A healthy Cassio Jensen will go a long way in helping take some pressure off that backcourt because they are undersized.
Yeah. And that loss to Kearney, Southeast has lost 3 in a row now after going 7 in a row, and then they've lost 3 straight. Just cannot figure that team out. Class B, not a ton happened. We already talked about Platteview. Scott took care of business. Crete fell to number 3 after the loss to Aurora. Again, they've got that big game on at Platteview on Friday. Bennington climbed to 2 and then lost to Roncalli in overtime. Fell down to 4.
That's just a tough. Boy, those two teams, they got a lot of history over these last 4 or 5 years against one another. Roncalli and Beatrice.
And Roncalli at 6.
Bennington.
Yeah, at Roncalli at 6 now. They beat Blair as well last week. So a good week for the Crimson Pride. York is staying steady at 5. Took care of business against Seward. They got Waverly on Tuesday, Hastings Thursday. Elkhorn at 7, Scottsbluff at 8. They just came up just a little bit short against North Platte, 54-55 against them. And North Platte's a solid Class A team. Got a good win against McCook. So Scottsbluff just hanging around there at 14-8 still. Norris at 9 and Beatrice at 10, which again shows just the parity in B once you get past that top tier, because Norris is at 12-9 and Beatrice at 11-7, both in the top 10 there in B. So I think when we talked about kind of C1 and C2, want to close this thing out with some
yes. Scott and Aurora has my attention. That's why we were talking about Aurora and that big win last week. I'll be curious to see, because I think they got to get back healthy. He's got the bad ribs.
Yeah.
Kind of changes the way that they've been able to play and just kind of going along steady. I'd like to see some trajectory.
They've got a huge game. They go to Sioux City Heelan, coached by former Fremont
legend
great Matt Hahn.
Yep.
And condolences go out to the Hahn family. Lost their dad. Just really good people over there. Feeling for him. But yeah, that's Sioux City. First year on the job for him. They've been great. Sioux City, the Heelan, they've had a really good season. They've got a talented big guy, so it'll be fun. About 6'6", 6'7", kind of wing forward type that have a chance to play at the next level. And so that could be a fun one for Scott. They're going to have to go earn that thing.
How about Crete at Platteview? Yeah.
That's the big game in Class B, and one I'm considering going to. I have not seen Crete yet.
Get there early. That place fills up in a hurry. It's not a big gym.
No, I'm definitely calling ahead. Make sure they leave a spot for me. But go with 3 standouts this week to close out the episode. Kimball sophomore Kyler Lush. I have not heard. Apologize for that. I just read the name. Have not heard it pronounced. But in an 85-45 win at Minutair. 42 points on 19 of 34 shooting, hit 4 threes, 13 rebounds, 8 on the offensive end, 2 assists, 5 steals, and a block. That is a heck of a day of work.
That's a quarter of a season for some.
Deshler senior Gavin Nash in a 65-47 win at Blue Hill. 37 points on 15 of 19 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 8 from the line, 10 rebounds, 3 offensive, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And finally, a name that brought up in this before, but need to mention him again. Osceola Jr. Cale Gustafson.
Every week.
32 points, 11 of 19 shooting, 10 of 15 from the free throw line, 16 rebounds, 7 offensive, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, and a 10-point win against Heartland. And then followed that up with another 20-20 game, 28 points on 12 of 20 shooting, 4 of 4 from the line, 21 rebounds, including 12 offensive, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks in a win against Shelby Rising City. I think he's averaging like 16 rebounds a game, which is absurd.
Especially at this level. It's absurd anywhere.
And it's not like he's a 6'3.5" post that just has such a great feel, is physical. Motor doesn't stop. So that's great week for Gustafson. He's had a phenomenal season. And with him and Isaiah Zelazny, Osceola will be tough in their class.
Where are you heading tonight?
Got to stay home and watch the Huskers.
That's right. They've got a big one on Valentine's Day.
So I should be able to hit up games
Rutgers
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, close out the regular season. Not sure yet, but that's what we're looking at.
I'll be watching Millard West and West Side. I have a feeling. Got a feeling. Another great week. That's Nebraska Preps postgame. I love doing it just because I'm a big Jacob Padilla fan. You should be too. Catch us next week.
Sports Network production.